Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the hope of the Senju clan. What if instead of Kushina being Naruto's mother, and through a trick of fate Naruto's mother was Tsunade after a drunken night with Minato in which Naruto becomes both the heir and hope of the Senju clan. Find out what life would be like now for Naruto. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 24 Emergence of Talent. Previously on Hope of the Senju clan. When Naruto stood back up, he turned to stare at Neji with a hardened look, showing how serious he was right now, where he stretched his arm out forward, with his fist closed and blood dripping from it. This I swear in Hinata's blood, I will make you pay for what you did to her. I will defeat you, and I won't stop until I've pounded you into the ground and shattered that so-called belief of yours. Bold words, replied Neji calmly, unafraid of Naruto's vow, but can you back them up? At this Naruto narrowed his eyes and glared coldly at the Hyuga, and said, you've no idea what I am capable of, team. At this remark Neji frowned, where the two genin continued to glare at one another until their respected sensei placed their hands on their shoulders and led them away back up to the catwalks so that the next match could begin. The arena. After the incident between Hinata and Neji had settled and everyone had returned to catwalk, the next match soon started, which was between Gaara and one of Mai's teammates. When Mai's teammate faced off against Gaara, he took off his cloak and revealed himself to be average-looking boy wearing a standard shinobi uniform with brown hair, a small scar on his left cheek. On his back he carried 6 folded-up umbrellas. When Hayate started the match, the Aim Genin threw his umbrellas into the air and did a single hand seal before yelling out Juro Senbon shower. After which a hail of Senbon needles fell from above, where the Aim Genin then used his chakra to control the needles and had them attack Gaara from every direction. This match is mine. You cannot avoid my attack no matter what direction you take, the Aim Genin declared as the hail of needles fell on Gaara. But, just as the needles were about to hit Gaara, a large amount of sand suddenly came out of his gourd and surrounded him and acted like a shield, protecting him from the needles. With Naruto and the others. It's exactly like that nightmare before, thought Shino with fear, where he could see his teammate Kiba sweating profoundly, and his partner Akamaru whimpering in his jacket. Shit, he can use sand, but then that means... thought Naruto with shock, as he remembers what he read during a visit to the Fire Daimyo Private Library 1, before he turned to his mother and the others. Ka-chan, I think that guy is like Yujito-chan in Killer Bee. When Tsunade and the others heard this, their eyes widened in surprise. Naruto, are you sure of this? Positive, replied the boy. If this is true, then things have become even more complicated, thought the Sandame. I knew there was something up with that kid, thought Ibiki as he stared down at the Suna Genin. Damn it, what the hell is Suna thinking letting a kid like him entering this exam? Jiraiya thought, as he had heard the stories how the Jinchuriki of the Shikaku would often go insane. Shit, as if things weren't complicated enough with the Kumonins and Hanzo granddaughter here. Counting Naruto, there are now 4 Jinchuriki in the arena right now, thought Kushina with a frown. As she could not help but wonder if this was some kind of omen, since whenever more than one Jinchuriki appeared in the same place at the same time, disaster was never far behind. Could that boy be after Naruto? Like Hanzo's granddaughter and the Kumonin, Tsunade wondered. Since like Kushina she found it all too coincidental for Gaara and the Kumonins to be in this exam with Naruto. Naruto-kun, what do you mean by that? How is that guy like those Kumo shinobi? Ino asked, as she stood next to Naruto after the end Hinata's match. Sadly though, Ino never got an answer, as Naruto was focused solely on Gaara and remained silent. Before Ino could even try to ask again, her attention was suddenly caught by what Gaara did next. Down in the arena. Impossible! Cried the Aim Genin in shock, as he could believe his attack had been so easily blocked by Gaara's sand that there wasn't a scratch on him. I've already seen this technique, is this really all you can do? Asked Gaara in a bored-like tone. Not even close. yelled the aim genie, before he launched another barrage of Senbon needles at Gaara, which he blocked by maintaining his sand wall. But unlike the last time, the aim genin had thrown several Senbon needles along with the ones that came from the umbrella. Attached to them were some exploding notes, which he activated as soon as they hit Gaara's sand wall. When the notes exploded, a large cloud of dust appeared and enveloped Gaara. "Ha! How do you like that, team?" yelled the aim genin in victory. Sadly though, the genin's victory didn't last very long, for when the dust from the explosion dissipated, he saw a large sphere of sand, which soon fell apart and revealed an unharmed Gaara. No way!" cried the aim genin in disbelief. "I'm bored with you," spoke the red-headed genin with a dull tone, before he extended his arm and cried Sabaka Q, sand binding coffin. After which Gaara's sand shot forward and enveloped the aim genin, where within seconds the genin was covered in a cocoon of sand, unable to move. "I could easily leave you like this and allow the referee to declare me the winner, but that would be too easy and too boring," spoke Gaara, and he had his sand raise up into the air. Once the genin was high enough in the air, Gaara closed his hand and cried Sabaka Soso, sand waterfall funeral, which caused the sand cocoon to implode, killing the aim genin instantly and causing a small shower of blood, which covered the arena floor with the spectators. After seeing this spectacle, most of the spectators were left in complete shock and horror. Most of the genin were horrified by what they saw. Even the likes of Niji and Sasuke were stunned by the brutality of what Gaara did. Those like Sakura closed their eyes just Gaara crushed the aim genin, while others like Ino turned away, where she covered her face into Naruto's chest, not wanting to see it. Naruto of course did not try to stop Ino when she placed her face into his chest. In fact, he tried to comfort the blonde girl, as like her, he was horrified by what he had seen. Flawless victory as always, Gaara thought Baki. That idiot never stood a chance, thought a smirking Kankuro. Damn, that is one brutal kid, thought Sabuza, since he could see by looking in Gaara's eyes that he was a stone-cold killer. He also couldn't help but notice that in many ways Gaara was just like him when he was Gaara's age, back when they still had the final exam in Kiri. Such brutality, thought Sandaime sadly, who guessed that Suna had raised him to become an emotionless killing machine. The same thing that Danzo wanted to turn Naruto into after the Yondaime sealed the Kyuubi into him. Just as I feared, this kid is a complete sociopath, thought Jiraiya, as he looked at the young red-headed boy. So, he is the famed ultimate weapon of Suna, thought Kandachi, who was rather impressed with Gaara's power and was completely unaffected by the death of one of his genin. He is clearly no order genin, my thought with a frown, after seeing Gaara's display of power. Even the likes of Danzo frowned when he saw what Gaara did, although for completely different set of reasons. Interesting, so that is the famed Sabaka no Gaara, but why has Suna sent its Jinchuriki into this exam? Is it because of Naruto or for another reason? That guy's a monster, muttered Omoi, with disbelief, and was actually fearful of having to go against him. Yujito of course did not take offense to Omoi's comment, in fact she actually agreed with him, as what Gaara did was indeed brutal. She also had to acknowledge that the Nibi was right about the Jinchuriki of Shikaku, he was indeed dangerous. Soon after being declared the winner by Hayate, who needed a moment or two to recover, Gaara began to make his way back up to his team. But before he walked away, he turned to look up at Naruto and Sasuke, who had just recovered from the shock of what they had seen. When Gaara looked up at them, he gave them both a cold, piercing look. Seeing this, both Sasuke and Naruto stared right back at the sand-wielding genin, showing that they were not afraid of him. When Gaara saw that neither Sasuke nor Naruto were afraid of him, the crazed boy actually smiled, as if pleased that his new prey was unafraid of him. For as far as he was concerned, it made his future battles with them that more exciting, where he would enjoy seeing the look of fear and horror in their eyes, right before he killed them. Not long after Gaara rejoined his team, the screen lit up again, where it went through the remaining names to see who was next to fight. After about a minute or two, the screen stopped at Choji versus Dosu. Seeing this, Choji began to feel hesitant about fighting, given what he saw a few minutes ago. Seeing that how nervous his student was, Asuma decided to encourage Choji by promising to treat him to barbecue if he won, and to intervene if he was in danger. Naturally, upon hearing the offer of a free lunch, Choji regained his fighting spirit and jumped down to the arena, eager to fight. When Hayate started of the match, Ino suddenly yelled to him that he was fat, so that he would be spurred into fighting even more. As expected, Ino's tactic worked, as Choji was now in a frenzy and transformed into his human bullet tank form and charged straight at Dosu. Sadly, the Oto Genin avoided Choji's attack by jumping into the air, where Choji then got lodged in the wall behind Dosu. With Choji unable to fight back, Dosu landed on top of the large boy and used his melody arm to send a blast of sound into Choji's bulk, where its effectiveness was increased as a result of Choji's increased size, thus defeating Choji. Once Asuma picked Choji up and brought him back to the catwalk, the screen activated again, and went through the names, where it stopped at Omoi against the last remaining member of Mai's team. Down in the arena. When Omoi and the Aim Genin stood opposite each other, the Aim Genin took off his cloak, revealing him to be an average-looking young man in his late teens with short blonde hair, wearing a typical Aim shinobi uniform. After Hayate began the match, the Aim Genin started things off by throwing a kunai at Omoi, who easily evaded the kunai by sidestepping it. But as soon as the kunai flew by him, it turned around and went to hit Omoi in the back. Fortunately though, Omoi did not miss this and quickly took out his long katana and deflected the kunai. Naturally, the Aim Genin was surprised by this, as he was certain Omoi wouldn't notice it. I suggest that you do not underestimate the shinobi of Kumo, as I won't fall for such cheap tricks, spoke Omoi calmly with a hint of seriousness. I see, well then, let's get started, spoke the Aim Genin, where he threw several more kunai at Omoi, who easily deflected them with his katana, and then charged forward at the Genin and slashed at him, forcing the Aim Genin to jump backwards to avoid the attack. That was rather close, but now try these, yelled the Aim Genin as he threw 6 kunai at once at Omoi, who easily sidestepped them. Seeing this, the Aim Genin frowned and threw another 6 kunai at the Kumonin, but like before avoided them by sidestepping them. Annoyed by how easily Omoi was evading his attack, the Aim Genin decided to up the game a bit. He then took several dozen kunai and threw them into the air, and did 3 quick hand seals, and yelled out Sashijin, manipulating attack blades, causing the kunai to stop in midair, where he then sent the barrage of kunai speeding forward. Knowing he couldn't avoid all the kunai, and that he didn't have much time, Omoi immediately swung his katana in a large crescent moon-shape arc, while yelling out Kumoryu Mikazukajiri, Cloud-style 3 days moon beheading, allowing him to deflect the 2 kunai that were about hit him. At the same time, he allowed the rest of the kunai to fly by him, where they embedded themselves into the wall behind Omoi. After the remaining kunai flew by him, Omoi charged forward hoping to finish the battle quickly. But as he moved forward, he felt a sharp pain in both his arms. When he looked at them, he saw that the sleeves of his shirt were torn and saw small shallow cuts on his arm. Seeing this, Omoi narrowed his eyes and finally saw the thin lines of steel string that now surrounded him. After seeing this, Omoi realized that his opponent had tied the steel string to the end of his kunai so to limit his movement. It also explained how he was able to control the movements of the kunai that he threw at the beginning of the fight. "Ha, looks like I have you now," said the Aim Genin with a smirk. "There's no way you can avoid my attacks any longer with my wire surrounding you. Nor can you use that long katana of yours properly, given the limited space you have." Omoi of course did not respond to this and maintain a blank look. After getting no response from Omoi, the Aim Genin decided to finish the battle, where he took out 3 more kunai and threw them at Omoi. Knowing that he couldn't avoid the kunai or block them with his katana, due to limited space he had, Omoi was left with one course of action, where in a remarkable feat of skill, he caught the first kunai in his left hand, his free hand, and immediately deflected the other 2 kunai with the kunai he caught. Naturally, the Aim Genin was surprised by this, while everyone else watching the fight was rather impressed with Omoi's skill level. Humph. Not bad, but it still doesn't change anything. You're still trapped inside my wire, and you can't cut it with your katana, as my wire is too strong. I wouldn't be so sure of that, Omoi answered, where he began to channel his lightning chakra into his katana, and in one swift motion, sliced right through the surrounding wire. No way! Cried the aim genin in shock at seeing his steel wire being cut by Omoi's katana with ease. With the spectators. When those watching the fight saw this, many of the senior shinobi were surprised and impressed with a genin knowing an advanced chakra flow technique. Sarutobi Asuma was especially impressed with Omoi's skill. Since with the exception of Naruto, Omoi was the first genin he had seen able to use an advanced chakra flow technique like that. Pretty impressive. Kumo is sure as hell not playing around by sending this team into the exam, thought the Hokage's son. As he had to admit that Naruto was right about the Kumo genin being a skilled group. Pretty good, Omoi thought Naruto with a smile, since it was obvious that his friend had improved a lot since they last met. In the arena. With the steel wire surrounding him now gone, Omoi then raced forward, intending to finish the fight. Seeing this, the aim quickly leaped backwards to keep some distance between the two of them, where he then threw 4 more kunai at them. Like earlier, Omoi easily evaded the kunai and continued to race towards the aim genin, but like at the beginning of the fight. The kunai were being controlled by the steel ninja wire, where they turned around and flew towards Omoi's back. But just as the kunai were about to stab Omoi in the back, the dark-skinned teen suddenly spun around and yelled Kumoryu Uragiri, cloud-style reverse beheading. Where he avoided the kunai and cut through the steel wire, causing the kunai to fall to the ground. After dealing with the kunai from behind, Omoi then continued to race forward towards the aim genin, who was too shocked by what happened to even try and defend himself. By the time he came to his senses, it was too late, where Omoi delivered a large diagonal slash across the genin's chest, causing the genin to collapse onto the ground. When Hayate saw this, he immediately called the match to an end and declared Omoi the winner. With Omoi's match now over and Mai's last remaining teammate being taken away, the screen once again lit up and began to go through the remaining 5 names. Eventually, after about 30 seconds, the screen came to a stop at Chojuro and the last remaining member of the Taki team. Like many of the matches, the match didn't last very long, where the Taki genin tried to keep his distance from Chojuro, knowing that if he got too close to the Kiri genin, he would be finished. At the beginning of the fight, the Taki genin threw several kunai and shuriken at Chojuro, who easily blocked them with his wrapped-up sword. Seeing this, the Taki genin immediately used a low-level water ninjutsu and fired several glops of water from his mouth. Like with the projectiles that the Taki genin threw earlier, Chojuro easily blocked the water attack with his sword and unwrapped the bandages that were around his sword and yelled Hiramakari Kaiho, Hiramakari unleashing. After which a large blast of chakra erupted from the sword and took the shape of a large hammer. The attack was so strong that when it slammed into the genin, it sent him flying into the wall behind him, knocking him out and making a large dent in the wall. Naturally, when Naruto saw this, he cringed slightly as he knew from first-hand experience that getting hit by Hiramakari like that was not pleasant. Sure, when he was hit, he was able to block it and didn't take much damage, not to mention he had Orochimaru's curse seal enhancing his strength and durability. But if he had been caught off guard and hit by that attack, he was certain he would be in a sorry state. Once the Taki genin had been carried off and Chojuro had returned to his team, the screen lit up and went through the 3 remaining, where it soon stooped at Sai versus Saito. After seeing the names, Naruto decided to pay close attention to the match, believing that it would be interesting to watch, since he knew that neither Sai nor Saito were weaklings and were quite skilled. Upon seeing their names on the screen, both boys jumped down to the arena to face one another, where once they were ready, Hayate began the match. Down in the arena. As soon as Hayate began the match, both boys drew out their individual swords and engaged one another in close combat. For the first few minutes of the match, the 2 genin traded attacks with each other, where they would block or dodge the other's sword slashes or strikes. For the first few minutes of the fight, both Saito and Sai proved evenly matched with one another, but as the fight continued, Saito slowly gained the advantage thanks to his superior sword training under Zabuza. Realizing this, Sai decided to gain a little distance between him and Saito, where he jumped backwards into the air and threw several shuriken at him, forcing Saito to deflect them. With Saito momentarily distracted, Sai took out a special drawing scroll and opened it, then threw it into the air, and took out his brush and painted 2 ink lions to attack Saito. Seeing the ink lions coming at him, Saito immediately dropped his katana and did some hand seals and thought Suiton, Teppadama, water style, gunshot. And shot 2 glops of water at the ink lion, which reverted into puddles of ink after they were hit. Once the lions were taken care of, Saito then took out a set of shuriken and threw them at Sai, who had just landed back on the ground. Acting fast, Sai immediately jumped to the right to avoid the incoming projectiles, and was forced to move again, when Saito threw several kunai at him. I see, thought Sai, he's trying to prevent me from using my super beast scroll and drawing any more of my beast. But I'm afraid that won't work with me, thought the root agent further before he threw a smoke bomb to the ground and 2 more to the left and right of him, causing much of the arena to be filled with smoke and obscuring Saito's line of sight. Shit, thought Saito angrily, as he realized what Sai was doing, where he quickly picked up his katana and fell into a defensive stance and prepared for Sai's eventually attack. The attack soon came, where a flock of small ink birds emerged from the smoke. Upon seeing the ink birds, Saito immediately prepared to defend himself, where he raised his katana up and defended himself from the birds' kamikaze-like attacks. As soon as the ink birds were all destroyed, Saito began to use his sensory skills to try to find Sai in the slowly dissipating smoke. But just as he was sensing for Sai's chakra, he suddenly senses a small chakra signature coming behind him. Thinking that Sai was suppressing his chakra so to keep himself hidden, Saito immediately spun around and found Sai emerging from the smoke with his Tanto sword in hand. Acting fast, Saito quickly sidestepped Sai's stabbing attack, and then spun around behind the pale-faced boy and slashed at his back. Ha! Not bad, but not good enough. You underestimate the shinobi of Kirigakure, Hidden Mist, as fighting without sight is a speciality of ours, stated Saito with a smile. That soon faded when he saw Sai revert into a puddle of ink. Once he had realized that the Sai he had hit was a clone, and that it was the chakra that made up the clone that he sensed, Saito began to expand his senses outward again to try and find the real Sai. Unfortunately, by the time he did this, a large number of ink snakes that had been slowly slithering across the ground toward him were on top of him. Once they were close enough, the snakes quickly wrapped themselves around the young Kiri Genin, binding his legs together and his arms to his body, and causing him to fall to the ground. As Saito struggled and tried to free himself, he suddenly saw Sai standing over him with his sword pointing right at his face. Looks like you're the one who underestimated me, shithead, said Sai, with his usual fake smile. It was at this point that Saito realized that the smoke, the ink birds, and the ink clone were all a distraction from Sai, so that he would not pay attention to his surroundings and fail to notice the ink snakes slither up to him, thereby allowing them to wrap themselves around him, Saito, and bind him. Once the smoke had fully dissipated and after seeing that Saito was bound and unable to fight any longer, Hayate declared Sai the winner. After which the root agent had his snake revert to ink, thereby allowing Saito to move again. When Sai was making his way back up to the catwalk and to his team, the young man glanced over to his master, who was watching from the catwalk at the other end of the arena, with the other shinobi elders and the most of the foreign genin teams. From there Danzo gave him a barely seen nod of approval, which was only noticed by the Sandaime and his 2 former students Jiraiya and Tsunade. After Sai and Saito had returned to their respected teams, the screen lit up again, where the first name stayed on Rock Lee, since he was the only other remaining genin who had yet to fight, while the bottom part of the screen began to run through all the names of the other genin. As the screen raced through the names, many of the genin were waiting with bated breaths, wondering if one of their names would appear and allow them another chance of participating in the finals. Those who had won their matches also waited with bated breaths, since if one of their names appeared, they would be risking their place in the finals. Eventually though, the bottom screen came to stop at a name, where there was a gasp of surprise from most people when they saw the name of the person that would be fighting Lee. None of course were more surprised than Lee and his opponent, when they saw the screen, which read Rock Lee vs Senju Naruto. When Naruto saw his name, he didn't know whether he should feel lucky or unlucky, since on one hand he was getting to fight Lee, someone he had wanted to fight ever since his battle with Sasuke, who was not only strong, but a highly skilled taijutsu fighter. Yet on the other hand, he wasn't at 100%, he couldn't use any of this chakra, and was still quite sore from his earlier fight with Mai. Even though this technically put him and Lee on even footing, Naruto was fairly certain that Lee still had the advantage. Since Lee trained primarily as taijutsu, meaning he was more skilled, not to mention he hadn't fought yet. But regardless of this fact, Naruto couldn't wait to get started since he enjoyed the challenge, and he was determined to win this battle and move to the finals to face Neji and pay him back for what he did to Hinata. Yash, I am all fired up, now at last I can face a worthy opponent and prove that I have become a splendid ninja, declared Lee excitedly. Well spoken, Lee, but let me give you some good advice, do not underestimate your opponent. Also, I don't think anyone has noticed yet, but Senju Naruto seems to very skilled with his sword, said Guy. Yash, that is good advice, Guy sensei, I'll write it down, replied Lee as he took out a pad and pencil and began to write down. Don't write it down. You won't have time to read it when you're battling, scolded Guy. I see, more good advice, replied Lee, where he continued to write down what Guy was telling him. Naturally, this caused everyone to have large sweat drops on the back of their heads and look at the two with disbelieving looks. They didn't notice? Thought Kakashi, who fought the urge to slap his forehead. Naruto of course just smirked at their antics, before he took off his sword and sling off and handed it to Shizune. Here, Nachan, take this. Naruto, why are you giving Shizune your katana? You're going to need it, spoke his mother, since without his chakra Naruto was vulnerable enough. But without his katana he was even more vulnerable. Because I won't need it, not for this fight, stated Naruto. Do you believe I am not a worthy opponent, Naruto-kun? Asked Lee, who was slightly insulted by Naruto's comment, believing that Naruto thought he would not be a challenge. No, of course, the reason I don't want my katana is because I want this to be a fair fight, your taijutsu against mine, explained Naruto. At hearing this, Guy suddenly began to weep in anime tears, such admirable youth, truly Naruto-kun, you're in the springtime of your youth. Lee soon joined Guy in his weeping, saying how Naruto was truly a splendid ninja, at which point both men were bought to envelope Naruto, and have him join them in their deadly sunset jutsu, and become the third green beast. Fortunately though for Naruto, before Guy and Lee could even attempt it, the Sandaime Hokage intervened, stating that Hayate was waiting for them, thereby saving his surrogate grandson from being traumatized. The Hokage-sama is right, Lee. Now go. Iya. Roared Guy, after which flames of determination erupted from Lee, and he jumped over the railing. All the while, everyone was looking at the two as if they were insane, which was very possible. Soon after, a smiling Naruto joined Lee by jumping over the railing and standing opposite him. In the arena with Naruto and Lee. Before we begin, Naruto-kun, I wish to say that I am very glad that I can fight you so early into the exam, Lee said as he fell into a fighting stance. Same here, Lee, although I will admit that I was a bit surprised when I saw that I would be fighting you, but I'm not complaining, and I suggest that you give this fight your all, as I intend to give you my very best, said Naruto, as he fell into his own fighting stance. I would have it no other way, replied Lee with a smile. With the spectators. Well, this will certainly be an interesting match, commented Kakashi, as he knew that even without his chakra and katana, Naruto was quite capable. But even still he could not help but wonder if Naruto's taijutsu skill would be enough to match Lee's, since he knew that from training under Guy, Lee would be highly proficient in it. Kakashi was of course not the only one, as Tsunade herself was slightly worried, since by giving up his katana, Naruto threw away his one remaining edge over Lee. She of course blamed this on Naruto's strong sense of honor, since Naruto hated having an unfair advantage over an opponent, when not in a life-or-death battle. He had developed this sense of honor from his time training under Kensai, during their time at the Fire Daimyo's estate. 2. Who taught Naruto that defeating an opponent with an unfair advantage is a hollow victory and isn't worth having. in the arena with Naruto and Lee. Once both boys were ready, Hayate, who was standing between them, raised his hand and lowered it while saying, "Now let the final match of the preliminaries begin." As soon as Hayate yelled begin, Lee raced towards Naruto at top speed, and did a mid-air spinning kick while crying Konoha Senpu, Leaf Whirlwind. Acting fast, Naruto brought up both his arms and held his ground while blocking the kick, where he then pushed Lee away, causing the bowl cut boy to flip back and land a few feet back. After blocking the kick, Naruto shook his arms around a bit, as they tingled a bit, since Lee's kick had been quite strong. Soon after though, Lee attacked again, where for the next few minutes the two boys fought in a fierce taijutsu battle, blocking or dodging each other's attacks. Naruto was thankfully able to keep up with Lee's high speed due to removing his Shirshiro Mamazuke Shiru, 4 limbs waiting seal, when he fought Mai. In fact, he was actually a good bit faster than Lee was right now. As the fight continued, Naruto blocked another spinning kick from Lee with his right arm, and then attempted to punch Lee with other free arm. Lee of course saw this and fell back to the ground and spun around and did an high-speed leg sweep. Naruto avoided this by falling backwards as well and using his right arm to push himself into the air and flipped backwards so that he would land of the ground a few meters away from Lee. Not to be deterred, Lee followed after Naruto and attacked with a series of high-speed rapid punches, which Naruto was just able to block. After which he disappeared right before Lee's eyes in a burst of speed and reappeared to Lee's right side and pre-formed a spinning back kick, while crying out Uzohando, whirling kick. 3. Seeing the attack coming at him from the corner of his eye, Lee immediately brought his right arm up to block the kick, which proved to be almost as strong as Lee's Konoha Senpu. Not letting up on his attacks, and in an impressive feat of agility, Naruto was able to push himself off Lee's arm, and spun himself around Lee's unguarded left side and delivered a powerful forward mid-air spin kick, hitting the left side of Lee's head and sending the green-cladded boy flying into the wall, but was able to recover and flip himself around before he could hit it. As Lee stood back up, he rubbed the side of the head, where his left cheek was red from the kick. "Impressive move, Naruto-kun, you're indeed a worthy opponent." "Same to you, Lee," Naruto replied, before he charged forward at top speed. For several minutes, Naruto forced Lee to be on the defensive, by using his superior speed to his advantage. Although it did little to help, since despite being of the defensive, Lee suffered little damage, as he was able to block or dodge nearly all of Naruto's attacks, thanks to the intense taijutsu training he went under with Guy. For as fast as Naruto was right now, Lee was still more skilled and experienced in taijutsu fighting than Naruto, and therefore could take a few hits and wait for the right moment to strike, which he did. When an opening eventually appeared in Naruto's defenses, Lee struck and delivered a powerful forward kick to Naruto that sent the blonde boy flying back. Recovering quickly, Naruto landed back onto his feet, where he was forced to sidestep a forward punch from Lee and attempted a strong elbow strike to the left side of Lee's head. Luckily though for Lee, he was able to bring up his guard in time and block the elbow strike. But when he did, Naruto used Lee's arm as type of springboard to push himself away and spin around behind Lee and struck him with a strong elbow strike to the back of the elder boy's head, causing the bushy-haired boy to fall forward. The strike was so strong, it nearly knocked Lee out, but luckily for him, he was able to stay conscious and rolled away from the young Senju. Naruto immediately pursued after Lee, but the elder boy was able to keep his distance from Naruto, and even jumped into the air to avoid a strong punch from Naruto. He even took out and threw several shuriken at his blonde-haired opponent, forcing him to jump backwards to avoid them, thereby increasing the distance between the two of them. For a moment or two the two Konoha Genin continued to stare at one another, until eventually the two charged forward. After dodging one of Naruto's punches, Lee disappeared in a blur and reappeared to Naruto's left and attempted to punch him in the side. But Naruto caught sight of Lee appearing to his left. He was able to raise his arm up in time to block the punch, where he attempted a roundhouse kick to Lee's side. Seeing this, Lee flipped up into the air and tried a falling axe kick on Naruto's head, who quickly rolled out of the way to the right to avoid the kick, where he spun around and engaged Lee again in hand-to-hand fighting with the spectators. Most impressive, commented Guy as he watched his student and Naruto fight. He was quite impressed with Naruto's speed and skill as well as his reactions to Lee's moves, showing he had been trained well in hand-to-hand fighting. He was further intrigued with Naruto's fighting style, despite how blunt and rough it was. In many ways Guy found it similar to the Goken strong fist style, where it relied on hard, fast-hitting moves. Yet it also involved using one's agility to attempt risky moves, and it involved using not only punches and kicks, but also elbow strikes and knee strikes. Tell me, Kushina-san, what style is Naruto-kun using? I've never seen this type of taijutsu. He isn't using any fighting style, or at least not one with any name, as according to Naruto, he invented this style himself, answered Kushina. At this, Guy raised his eyebrow with fascination, as he was not only surprised, but highly impressed with Naruto. Since to develop one's own fighting style was very commendable in his book, but even more, since the style Naruto was developing had the potential to be quite powerful if developed correctly. Excuse Guy-sensei, asked Sakura, but can you tell me why Lee-san is only using taijutsu moves? I get that he specializes in taijutsus, but still fighting Naruto with taijutsu alone will be difficult. Why doesn't he try any ninjutsu? It's not that he isn't using them, it's just that he can't, answered Guy. Huh? Asked Sakura, not understanding what Guy was saying. Lee has no talent in using genjutsu or ninjutsu. What? No way? Cried Sakura in surprise, where she was joined by Sasuke, who was equally surprised by this news. When I first met Lee, he had no talent in anything, stated Guy. Impossible, thought Sasuke, as he knew how strong Lee was from first-hand experience. Although it is very rare, there are shinobi who are born unable to perform ninjutsu and genjutsu. Knowing this, there was only one thing I could teach Lee to help him survive the shinobi world, and that was taijutsu, and although this can be seen as a disadvantage, it can also be seen as an advantage, where he could perfect his taijutsu to a level that most shinobi could never reach. Before Sakura or Sasuke could ask Guy further, they noticed that Naruto had gained the advantage in the fight and was forcing Lee back. With Lee and Naruto down in the arena, after avoiding a strong kick from Naruto, Lee did a series of backward somersaults to gain some distance from the young Senju. But Naruto would have none of that this time, as he pursued Lee and threw several shuriken at him, forcing the bushy-haired boy to push himself up high into the air, where he landed on the stone hands. After landing on the stone hands, Lee looked down, wondering what to do, but as he was strategizing, he suddenly heard his sensei Guy call out to him. Lee! Take them off! Knowing what his sensei was referring to, Lee turned to look at his sensei in surprise. But Guy-sensei, I thought, that was only permitted when protecting very important people, said Lee in surprise. Yes, I know, Lee, but this is an exception, and I will allow it, replied Guy with a thumb up. At hearing this, Lee got excited and began to laugh and started to take off his weights underneath his orange leg warmers. I guess I'm not the only one that uses this kind of training method, thought Naruto with a frown when he saw Lee taking the weights of his legs. With the spectators. Are those? Muttered Ino. Weights. Finished Shikamaru. Weights. Thought Tsunade with a slight frown. This can't be good, thought Jiraiya. A little old-fashioned guy, even Jiraiya-sama uses seals when it comes to this type of training method, thought Kakashi as he glanced at his friend. This should be interesting, thought Kushina. Humph, I don't see how losing some leg weights is going to make that big of a difference, muttered Mai. Now Senju, let's see how well you do against Lee without his weights on, thought Niji. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. Yash! That feels so much better, now I can move freely, said Lee as he stood back up and lifted his weights up and dropped them. But when they hit the ground, there were two large crashes where the weights caused two small craters in the ground. What the fuck? Naruto cried as he couldn't believe his eyes. With the spectators. When Lee's weight crashed to the ground, everyone in the arena was left stunned and wide-eyed by how heavy Lee's weights were. What the hell? Cried Tsunade and Jiraiya together in shock. But how? said a stunned Shizune, who was squeezing poor Taunton in shock. Impossible, said Sasuke, who couldn't believe his eyes. This is off the chain, yo, declared Killer Bee. How could he even move with that much weight on him, cried a surprised Sakura. He can't be human, thought a shocked Mai. Guy, you are too much, thought Kakashi with a sigh. Talk about overkill, muttered Kushina. This is insane, thought Yamato with a stunned look. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. This is nuts. What kind of sensei is Mato Guy? Not even Kaa-chan would do that to me, and how can he move so fast with all that weight on him? Thought Naruto, as he still couldn't believe what he was seeing with his own eyes. Enter Naruto OST Beautiful Green Wild Beast. Before Naruto could even think more on the subject, Guy suddenly gave Lee the signal to go, where Lee responded with a yes sir. Before he disappeared right before Naruto's and everyone else's eyes. The next thing Naruto knew, Lee appeared right before him, when Naruto tried to defend himself and strike at Lee. He disappeared and reappeared to Naruto's right and delivered a powerful punch to the side of Naruto's face, sending him flying. Before Naruto could even realize what had just happened, Lee appeared again in midair and gave him a brutal kick to the left side of his face, sending him flying in the opposite direction. After the kick, Naruto tried to recover by getting his feet back on the ground, but as soon as he did, Lee appeared again and punched him in the stomach. The punch was so strong that Naruto felt like he had been kicked by a donkey and nearly fell to his knees. This continued for the next few minutes, as Lee flew around Naruto, making the young Senju feel like a ping-pong ball at being sent flying around the arena. He couldn't even defend himself, as every time he tried, Lee would hit him before he could put his guard up, and every time he tried to hit Lee, the green-clad boy would disappear and reappear somewhere else. With the spectators. Unbelievable, said a stunned Sasuke, as he couldn't believe that Lee was this fast and that he held back this much from their fight. So fast, thought Kakashi in surprise. Amazing, thought Kurinai. Naruto-kun, cried a worried Mai. That guy is too much, he's just too fast, said Shikamaru. I can't even keep up with him, said a stunned Choji. I never dreamed that anyone could be so fast, stated Ino in surprise and worry when she saw what was happening to Naruto. How in the hell can anyone be that fast? Said a shocked Kiba. Damn it, thought Tsunade as she tightened her grip on the railing. Shit, what the hell has Guy been doing to this kid, thought Jiraiya, as he couldn't believe that anyone around Naruto's age could be this fast. Incredible, not even Gaara's sand would be able to keep up with that kind of speed, thought the amazed Temari. No way, muttered Omoi. What the hell is Konoha doing with these guys, yelled a shocked Karui. Shit, this kid is even faster than Haku, said stunned Zabuza. No doubt, spoke Chojuro, who was joined by his teammate Saito in agreement. Even Haku herself had to agree with them, as there was no point in denying it, although right now that was the least of her concern. Since right now she was fearful for Naruto, as the young boy was being thrown about like he was nothing by Lee. Haku was of course not the only one who was worried for Naruto, since even Mai, Yujito, Samui, Omoi, Ino, Jiraiya, Shizune and his mother Tsunade were becoming more and more worried as they watched the fight. As I said, even though Lee is unable to use either ninjutsu or genjutsu, we focused solely on his taijutsu. Turning his disability into a gift, now he doesn't need those skills to win, since he has now become the foremost taijutsu specialist and won't lose to anyone. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. After receiving yet another powerful kick from Lee, Naruto struggled to keep himself standing. Shit. How the fuck is this happening? How can anyone be so fast? Thought Naruto, as he spat out some blood and pant heavily. But before he could think any further on the matter, Lee appeared right underneath Naruto and sent a powerful kick to his chin, sending him flying into the air. Naruto of course recovered quickly thanks to his high tolerance for pain from his training with his mother and flipped himself over so that he would land on his feet. But as soon as he landed, he saw Lee appear in front of him, where he tried to hit the elder boy. But he immediately disappeared and reappeared to Naruto's left, then his right, and then behind him, and each time Naruto tried to hit him, he would move away before Naruto could hit him. Before Naruto knew where Lee went, the bushy-haired boy appeared to his right and sent him a powerful right hook, which sent the young Senju to the ground and skidding across it to the center of the arena. End of Naruto OST. Beautiful green wild beast. With the spectators. Naruto thought Shizune with concern, as she saw her godson/surrogate little brother sent skidding across the floor. She could also see that both Jiraiya and Tsunade were just as concerned for Naruto as she was, where Jiraiya gripped his hands tightly and Tsunade was biting her fingernails. Damn, it's bad enough that the kid went against Hanzo's granddaughter, but now he's up against Guy's student and he's wiping the floor with him. This just isn't the kid's day, thought Asuma. Ha, the boy finished now, thought Baki. It seems that you and I weren't destined to fight after all, Senju. But then again, if you couldn't beat a failure like Lee, then perhaps you weren't worth fighting after all, thought Niji. Poor brat just had some bad luck, muttered Anko. That's it, I'm ending this, said Tsunade as she was about to go down and stop the match, but before she could, she was stopped by Kushina. Hold on, Tsunade, this fight isn't over yet. It is as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to stand by and let my son get beaten into the ground. Please just wait a few more minutes, you should know better than anyone how tough he is, said Kushina. Of course I do, I trained him after all. Rounded Tsunade. But in the condition he is in now and the seal preventing him from using his chakra, how can he hope to beat that boy? Well, you've forgotten that Yamato and I have trained him and we've taught him a few things, so trust me. Naruto isn't done yet, he still has a chance and he is about to make his move, replied Kushina as she watched Naruto slowly stand up. Tsunade, I know you're worried, but just wait a little longer. Kushina and Yamato have trained Naruto well, I too believe he still has a chance, said the Sandaime. At hearing this, Tsunade frowned slightly, but decided to wait just a little longer and hoped that her son could pull through this. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. As Naruto slowly got back onto his feet, he spat up some more blood and coughed a little. Crap. I knew Lee was tough, but I never imagined he was this strong. His speed is insane, I just can't keep up with him. I've got no other choice, I have to play my final card, if I don't, I'm going to lose this fight. After seeing that Naruto was back on his feet and seeing the shape he was in, Lee frowned slightly. Naruto-kun, please give up, I do not wish to hurt, you cannot hope to match my speed. There will be no shame in admitting defeat. When Naruto heard this, he just chuckled, sorry Lee, but giving up is simply not my style, besides if you were in my shoes would you give up? I suppose I would not. In that we are alike, but regardless, this fight is far from overstated. Naruto, where he then began to remove his green fingerless gloves, revealing 2 tattoos on the back of his hands. With the spectators. Are those? Said Tsunade. Chakra storage seals, finished Jiraiya. Yep, they are, after I carved the chakra storage seal on his katana. I suggested that we also place some on his body, so that in the event that he was out of chakra and lost his katana, he could use the seals on his body and draw from them. But why didn't he use them in his first fight? Asked Shizune. Naruto wanted to keep the seals on his body secret for as long as possible, so that he would have a hidden ace up in his sleeve that people didn't know about. As to quote that Aburin kid from earlier, while 1 ace in the hole is good, 2 are better, answered Kushina, before she looked back down at Naruto, who had spat out some more blood on both seals and rubbed it along them, causing them to glow. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. When Lee saw Naruto the 2 seals on the back of Naruto's hands glow, he knew he needed to finish this fight now, before Naruto could do whatever he planned to do. Quickly disappearing in a burst of speed, Lee reappeared in front of Naruto and punched him right in the face. But despite the force of the punch, Naruto held his ground, where he then swung his leg and tried to hit Lee in the side. Sadly though, Lee was much too quick for him, where he disappeared in a blur. You're fast, Naruto-kun, but you are still nowhere near as fast as I am and therefore you cannot hit me, said Lee as he circled around Naruto at high speed, preparing for his next attack. Well, if I can't beat you in speed, then I'll just have to beat you with raw power," cried Naruto, where he channeled an immense amount of chakra from his right-hand seal and released it when he slammed his fist into the ground, while crying Chikakohendo, Earthshaker Impact. Begin Haimataro Tushar soundtrack. Once Naruto's fist hit the ground, he released the chakra that he had gathered. After which a massive explosion erupted, which sent Lee flying backwards into the stone hands, and caused the entire arena to be filled with dust. The force of the explosion was so great that Lee was barely able to propel himself back up to the top of the hands and prevent himself from crashing into the wall. Even the match referee Hayate was not immune from the effects of the attack, where he was forced to jump up to the catwalks, just to get away. What unbelievable power, all just from a single punch, thought the Chunin examiner in amazement. The power of the punch was so great, that it created massive shockwave all around the arena, forcing everyone to cover their faces and literally shook the arena walls and ceiling. With the spectators. "What the hell is Senju doing? Is he trying to bring the whole place down on top of us?" yelled Karui in disbelief. "This is off the hook, yo," declared Killer Bee. "This is nuts," roared Kiba as he tried to keep himself steady from all the shaking. When the shaking finally stopped and the dust around the arena finally settled, the spectators finally could see the state of the arena, where most of them were left completely stunned. In the center of the arena, Naruto stood in the middle of a small crater, while the entire arena floor had been pulverized by the excess shock of his attack, leaving it completely destroyed. The floor was completely torn up and was nothing more than rubble. Large chunks of stone now littered it, making it nearly impossible for anyone to walk across. "Yash," said Tsunade with a smile, at seeing her son turning the fight around as well as seeing that Naruto had indeed improved since she last saw him. Naruto thought Shizune with a smile and some relief that he was alright. "Alright. You're definitely a chip off the old block, brat, that's for sure," thought Jiraiya with an amused smile. "That's the way, Naruto. That's my student. Show this guy who's boss," yelled Kushina excitedly as she punched her fist into the air. At the same time Yamato could only sigh and slap his forehead, not only because of Kushina's antics, but also because of what Naruto did to the arena. As like his mother, Naruto didn't know the meaning of restraint. "You are your mother's son," Naruto thought the Sandaime Hokage as he saw the arena and couldn't help but be grateful that Naruto taught him how to beat his paperwork. Since the damage Naruto had just done to the arena would no doubt triple it. He was also thankful that this was the last match, since it was unlikely that they would be able to have any more after this. "Damn, I knew this kid was interesting, but I never expected this," muttered a surprised Ibiki. "No shit, in here I thought this year's exam was going to be dull," replied a shocked Anko. "And no way," said a stunned Karui. "Has Senju always been this strong?" "Unreal," muttered a shocked Omoi. "Damn yo," said a surprised Killer Bee. "Incredible," muttered a wide-eyed Samui, who was dumbfounded by Naruto's strength. "Boy kitten, you sure know how to pick them," commented a surprised and impressed Nibi, where for once, Yujito did not respond, since she was left speechless after seeing what Naruto did. "I am possible," said a stunned Kankuro as he couldn't believe his eyes. "This guy, he's a freaking monster. How is this possible?" thought Baki, who had been completely taken back by Naruto's show of strength. How can a mere boy possess such strength? Even the normally calm and level-headed Temari was freaking out, after seeing the destruction. "It can't be? No human can be this strong, this guy, he's a freak of nature," just like Gaara, thought Temari with disbelief and fear, which only grew when she saw the insane glee in Gaara's eyes, where she became fearful of what could happen should Naruto and Gaara ever face off against one another. "Yes, mother, I know, he is the one. He is the one who will provide me with the battle I seek. He is the one that will allow me to truly feel alive and prove my existence to the world. And when I have finally killed him, you will feast on his blood like never before," thought Gaara with an insane excitement. "Unbelievable," muttered a wide-eyed Shikamaru. "Holy cow," said Choji, who was completely gobsmacked. I knew Naruto-kun was strong, but this is," said Ino, but couldn't finish what she was saying, as she was still in shock and was for once in her life at a complete loss for words.
"Damn, I guess the old saying is true. The apple really doesn't fall far from the tree," muttered Asuma as he puffed out some smoke.
Even though he knew about Naruto's strength, see it for himself was something else. "Holy shit!" cried Kiba, who right now was having second thoughts about trying to piss Naruto off anymore.
"What phenomenal strength," thought an amazed Shino, who was left completely wide-eyed.
"Such power," thought Koreani, who like Asuma knew about Naruto's strength, but couldn't help but be amazed at seeing it for herself.
"This is insane, how can he be this strong?"
thought a wide-eyed Dosu.
"Magnificent,"
thought Orochimaru with insane-like glee, as he licked his lips at Naruto's show of power.
"I don't believe it. He was holding back this much when we fought,"
thought a shell-shocked Mai, but eventually her surprise wore off, and she started to smile. "But then again, I guess I shouldn't expect anything less from my future husband." Unfortunately though, Mai's team leader Kandachi did not take the sight as well as she did.
Since this show of power made Naruto an even more dangerous threat than he or his master Hanzo ever dreamed possible. This has to be some kind of nightmare. What the hell has Konoha been teaching its genin?
If that boy is this strong already, there's no telling how strong he will become in the future, Kandachi thought.
"Damn, I think the brat has actually gotten stronger since last time," muttered Zabuza when he saw the destruction Naruto caused with a single punch.
"I agree," answered Haku, who like Zabuza was impressed with Naruto's power, as well as happy that Naruto had turned the fight around.
"What extraordinary strength,"
thought Saito, who also caught a glance of the nervous look now on Chojuro's face. Saito of course couldn't blame him for feeling so nervous, after seeing Naruto's true strength. Especially after what happened to him when they fought Naruto in the Forest of Death.
"Truly the son of Tsunade-sama," commented Guy, who like most, was astounded by Naruto's overwhelming strength.
He was also beginning to understand what Kushina meant when he was talking to her and Kakashi before the preliminaries. "So, Senju, this is your true power," thought Niji with a frown, after getting over his shock.
"Unreal," said Tenten, "he can use Tsunade-sama legendary strength."
"Truly remarkable," commented Koharu when she saw the state of the arena.
"Indeed," replied Hamaru.
"Very impressive young Naruto," thought Danzo. "Well, I have to admit, you certainly know how to put on a show," Naruto thought Sai, since other than the time when Naruto hit him. This was the first time he was seeing the true extent of Naruto's superhuman strength. Sakura herself was in equal awe of Naruto's strength, even though this was not her first time seeing it. She could not help it, as she still found it hard to believe that Naruto was this strong. Sasuke on the other hand grew angry at this sight, since seeing this show of overwhelming power was like rubbing salt in an open wound to him. As it just showed how powerful Naruto was and how inferior he, Sasuke, was to him. Furthermore, it was obvious that Naruto's strength had grown from the last time he saw him use his superhuman strength. "No matter how many times I see this, it never ceases to amaze me at how strong Naruto is," thought Kakashi. "This fight has certainly taken an interesting twist," commented Kakashi, gaining people's attention, "since right now, we have Konoha's fastest genin going against Konoha's strongest genin. It's as if we're watching the age-old struggle of speed versus power." End Himataro Tushar soundtrack. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. As Lee looked down at the arena in utter shock of Naruto's strength and what he had done to it, the young man saw Naruto staring up at him and putting his fingerless gloves back on. "It is true that in terms of skill and speed, you're vastly superior to me, Lee. But in terms of raw power and destructive force, there's not a genin alive in Konoha or anywhere for that matter who can beat me. It seems that I have grossly underestimated you, Naruto-kun, a mistake that I will not make again," replied Lee before he disappeared. Fortunately, Naruto was prepared for Lee when he appeared in front on him, and was able to sidestep his forward punch. After which Naruto attempted to punch Lee using his superhuman strength, but missed as Lee disappeared in a blur. Acting fast, Naruto jumped into the air and barely avoided a swinging kick from Lee, who appeared on Naruto's right. After avoiding the kick, Naruto then swung around in midair and attempted to kick Lee in the side of the head, but like before, Lee avoided Naruto's attack by disappearing with a blur. Your strength is impressive, Naruto-kun, but regardless of how strong you are, it won't matter if you cannot hit me, stated Lee before he charged at Naruto again at high speed. The fight continued like this for several minutes, where Naruto used his superhuman strength to keep Lee at bay, who was naturally hesitant to get too close to Naruto, given the damage Naruto's attacks had done to the arena. Although the state of the arena seemingly also helped Naruto, since it limited Lee's maneuverability, where it was full of debris and obstacles and lacked solid footing for Lee to stand on. As the fight continued, Naruto kept trying to hit Lee, while using his superhuman strength, but each time Lee would avoid the attack, where Naruto would only hit the ruined floor or punch through the wall. It got so bad that those watching the fight wondered if there would be even an arena left once the fight ended. But even with the ruined arena helping him, it did not give Naruto what he needed most, which was a solid hit on Lee, since Lee was still much too fast for Naruto to hit. Even when he was able to predict some of Lee's moves, the green jumpsuit-wearing boy would move away from Naruto before he could hit him. There was also the fact that Naruto was still taking hits from Lee, as he couldn't predict all of Lee's moves or avoid all of them in time when he did predict them. Knowing that he needed to do something fast if he wanted to win, Naruto tried to think of a way to give him a solid hit on Lee. It was when Lee avoided another one of his punches that an idea suddenly hit him, where he then channeled a large amount of chakra from one of his seals and slammed his fist into the ground, causing a large dust cloud to cover the arena. With the spectators. What is Naruto thinking? He knows he can't hit Lee-san like that, he's just too fast, said Sakura. Just wait and see, kid, Naruto isn't the type of person to do something without some kind of reason behind it, answered Kushina as she looked down at the dust-filled arena. Indeed, added Tsunade, while wondering at the same time what her son was up to. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. What is Naruto-kun doing? Thought Lee, as he looked around the dust-filled arena where he couldn't see a thing. Wait. I see. He's did the very same thing to Sasuke-san when he fought him in the forest of death. He's trying to reduce my line of sight so that he can attack me without me seeing him. Very clever, Naruto-kun. I would expect nothing less from you, but it is not clever enough to defeat me. After figuring out Naruto's plan, Lee quickly raced at top speed towards the last place he saw Naruto, knowing he couldn't have gotten too far. As he neared the spot, the dust slowly began to settle, where he then saw the distinct silhouette of Naruto, standing in the same spot that he was before he created the dust cloud. Wanting to finish this quickly, Lee sped toward Naruto, and did a powerful roundhouse kick, right into Naruto's left side, which made contact. But as soon as Lee's kick had hit, he found he could not move away, and that Naruto had not been sent flying away. In fact, Naruto was still standing, and was now holding Lee's right leg tightly between his left side and arm. With the spectators. Very clever, commented Kakashi, realizing what Naruto's real plan was. Not too shabby, said Asuma. Like I said, Naruto doesn't do anything without a reason, stated Kushina with a smile. I don't get it, said Ino. What exactly did Naruto-kun do? How was he able to catch Lee-san like that? It's simply really, the kid knew that through normal means, he could never hit that other kid, so he devised a strategy by hitting the ground and causing a large cloud of dust to form around him. So that when that Lee kid moved through the dust cloud at high speed, he would disrupt the dust in the air, allowing Naruto to see what direction he was coming from and prepare for him, where he then let that Lee kid kick him, so that he could grab hold of his leg and keep him in one place. He also probably channeled some of his chakra from his seals to his feet, so that he would stick to the ground and not be sent flying. Explained Jiraiya. But by letting Lee-san hit him like that, he has probably taken a lot of damage, said Sakura, since they had seen how strong Lee's kicks were. True, but it was worth it, since now Naruto-chan has a clean shot at that kid, as he can't move away, answered Tsunade with a small smile. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. after taking Lee's kick and grabbing hold of his leg before he could move away. Naruto spat up some blood and grimaced, since he was certain that he had at least 3 broken ribs from that kick. But despite the pain, he smiled, since it was all worth it. Lee on the other hand became worried, for as soon as Naruto grabbed hold of him, he realized what Naruto's real plan was behind the dust cloud, and how Naruto let him hit him. Before Lee could try and think of a way to get out of Naruto's grip, the young Senju charged his fist up with a huge amount of chakra. "Sorry Lee, but this is where it all ends," said Naruto, before he delivered a devastating blow to Lee's face, which sent the elder boy flying to the other end of the arena and right through the stone wall near the main entrance doors, creating a 10-foot wide hole in it. When Tenten and Guy saw this, both of them cried out Lee's name in concern, since there was no doubt that he would be seriously injured after taking a hit like that. With the spectators, "He's finished," thought Mai with a smirk. "The match is over," thought Yujito, as she looked at the rumble of stone that covered Lee. "Smash him like a window pane," rhymed Killer Bee. "Oya oya, Naruto sure didn't hold anything back," muttered Shikamaru, before muttering troublesome when he saw the condition of the arena, which was just about destroyed and filled with several craters along with holes and dents on the wall. I honestly didn't think Senju would pull it off," muttered Saito. "Naruto sure has gotten a lot stronger," thought Omoi, since he was certain if he had been in Naruto's shoes, he would have lost long ago. "Nice going, brat," thought Jiraiya with a smile. Even Tsunade looked relieved at seeing that Naruto had won and let out a deep sigh that she had been holding, as it was obvious she had been worried about her son. Down in the arena. After jumping back down into the ruined arena, Hayate looked around the arena, and then over to the rubble that covered Lee. "This match is OV," said Hayate, but before he could finish, he suddenly heard Lee's voice cry out, "Wait." Once he heard this, Hayate quickly turned to look at the broken wall, and saw Lee's right hand sticking out from underneath the rubble, before Lee slowly pulled himself out. With the spectators. "Impossible!" cried Swanda in shock. "No way!" said Shikamaru. "How on earth is he still conscious, let alone able to move?" "Naruto hit him dead on," said a stunned Shizune. "But how?" asked Sasuke in shock, since after taking a hit like that, a normal human being should be unconscious if not dead. "He can't be human," said Ino. "I give that kid this, he's a tough one," thought Jiraiya with a frown. "Thank goodness," thought Guy as he let out a sigh. Lee thought Tenten, as she too let out a sigh of relief. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. "How in the hell is he able to stand? I hit him right in the face. At full force," thought Naruto in shock. "Lee should be out like a light for the next 3 days at least." As he stared in disbelief at Lee, Naruto noticed that Lee was in sorry state. He was covered in cut and bruises and bleeding all over his green jumpsuit, which was in tatters right now. Naruto also noticed that Lee's arm looked to be slightly out place, as if it was dislocated. No doubt caused when he hit Lee and sent him flying through the wall. "Lee, stop this, you're in no shape to fight, you can't beat me, especially with your arm dislocated like that, just give up. I don't want to hurt you any more than I already have," Naruto said in concern, since he didn't want seriously hurt Lee. "I'm sorry Naruto-kun, but like you I have my pride and I have no intention of giving up, as I have my own shinobi way to protect." "Can't you stop this?" asked Naruto as he turned to Hayate. "If your opponent can still stand and intends to fight, then fight will continue," replied Hayate. At this Naruto frowned, since he didn't want to hurt Lee anymore, before he could argue anymore. He saw Lee walk over to the wall next to him, and slammed his dislocated arm right into the wall several times, forcing it right into place. When Naruto and those that were watching saw this, many of them like Naruto couldn't help but flinch or look away, especially when they heard the sound of his shoulder go back into its slot echo throughout the arena, as well as hearing Lee's cries of pain when it did. Once Lee's arm was back into place, he turned to look at Naruto, who didn't look pleased, as he didn't want to fight Lee anymore, since even if his shoulder was back in place, Lee was still in bad shape. Ignoring the pain that he felt coming from his broken ribs, as well as his other injuries, Naruto charged at Lee, who tried to defend himself, but due to his own injuries, he could not raise his arms up in time, and was sent skidding across the ground when Naruto punched him. With the spectators, Lee-san is not moving as fast as he used to, commented Sakura. I'm not surprised, after taking a direct hit like he did from Naruto, when he uses his superhuman strength. You don't simply walk away from it, not without some serious injuries at least, replied Kushina. I agree, although I will admit I'm amazed that Lee-san is even able to stand and attempt to fight, after taking a hit like he did, added Yamato. It seems that the boy isn't using his immense strength anymore, Kohara commented, when she saw that Naruto's punch was an ordinary one. Could he have used all the chakra in his storage seals? I don't believe so, answered Hamura, who, like his counterpart, had recognized the seals on the back of Naruto's hands earlier on. If I were hazard to guess, I believe that the boy is holding back, so not to serious hurt the other boy. No doubt he's hoping that the guy's student will be easy to knock out in his weakened state, so that he won't hurt him any further. That sort of softness will you killed one day, boy, thought Danzo, who saw that Sai's report on Naruto were correct. As despite his immense skill and power, Naruto lets his emotions and heart control him, something that Danzo blamed Tsunade and Sarutobi's teachings on. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. After Naruto sent Lee skidding across the ground, he looked down at his opponent/friend, who was struggling to get back up on his feet. Please Lee, just stop this, I don't want to hurt you anymore, you can barely move, if this continues, you'll be seriously hurt, and that's something I don't want. As Naruto said this, Lee began to remember all the fights that he had with Neji, and how he always lost to him, and how Neji kept saying Lee could never beat a prodigy like him. He also remembers how everyone from his old class in the academy would say that he was hopeless, since he had no skill in ninjutsu or genjutsu, and that he was a failure. But then he began to remember how Guy believed in him, and helped him become strong. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, but I must refuse your offer again, I cannot and will not give up, said Lee as he slowly stood up again. At this Naruto just gashed his teeth in frustration, before charging at Lee again, intending to finish this battle now. But when he punched forward, Lee vanished in a blur, much to everyone's surprise, minus Guy's, who smiled. After seeing this, Naruto turned and began to attack Lee with a series of jabs and thrusts, but like earlier on in the fight, Lee skillfully avoided all of them. With the spectators, his movements have returned to normal, but how, commented Haku in surprise, since a moment ago Lee could barely move. The lotus in Konoha blooms twice, answered Guy with a smile. At hearing this, Sakura turned to Guy and asked him what he meant, as she remembered Lee saying that earlier on, back in the Forest of Death, before he left with his team. Guy, what did you? Asked Kushina, but didn't finish as she'd already guessed what he had done. It is just as you suspect, Kushina-san. So that boy, a genin, is capable of opening Hashiman 8 inner gates? Spoke Kakashi slowly, as he joined the conversation. Yes, Guy replied. At this news the Sandaime Hokage frowned slightly before looking down at Lee and Naruto. What the hell were you thinking? Teaching something that dangerous? Rounded Tsunade, angrily, as she turned to the bold-cut-haired man, knowing what this meant. This is a disaster, said Jiraiya. What the hell have you done? Do you not realize what could happen not only to Naruto, but to your student as well? Said Kushina. How many gates can he open? Tsunade asked quickly. 5. When the elder Konoha shinobi heard this, their concerns grew even further. What is the Hashiman? Asked Ino, as like most of the other genin they didn't like the sound of it. At this question Guy began to explain in detail about Hashiman and what it did. When Guy finished explaining everything, naturally the other genin became just as nervous and worried as Tsunade, and all the other elder Konoha shinobi. What would exactly happen if you opened all the gates? Sasuke asked suddenly, after hearing the explanation on the Hashiman. By opening all 8 gates, you are able to gain temporary powers that surpasses even a Kage-level shinobi. But as a result, said Jiraiya. You die, finished Tsunade, with an angry glare at Guy. Does that boy mean so little to you, Guy? Asked Kakashi, as he looked at Guy with a serious stare. There are limits to what you should teach a boy, I thought you knew better than this. At this, Guy just gave Kakashi and the others a serious look. None of you know anything about Lee. He has something very important to prove, not only to himself, but to everyone around him, and he is willing to pay whatever price he has to. So, I will do everything I can to help him. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. After Lee avoided one of Naruto's kick, he disappeared and reappeared at the other end of the arena, away from Naruto, with his back to the main doors of the arena. When Naruto turned to Lee, he could sense an immense force growing from Lee, causing him to wonder what the bushy-haired boy was doing. Enter Naruto OST Rock Lee Lotus theme. Guy-sensei, please let this work, thought Lee, as he began to release the third gate, the Simon, Life Gate. You are about to lose, Naruto-kun, as today, I will now prove to everyone that even someone with no talent can beat a prodigy like you, and that hard work and sheer determination can surpass natural-born talent. It was at this point that Lee's entire skin turned red, and he began to emanate large amounts of chakra from his body, which was so strong that it could be seen. At this point everyone was looking at Lee with complete shock, Naruto especially, who was stunned by this new development, as he didn't know what Lee was doing. What the fuck is going on? What is Lee doing and why has his skin turned red? Was what Naruto was thinking in confusion. With the spectators. He's opened the third, now he'll attack, said Kakashi. No, not yet, stated Guy, where he and everyone else watched as Lee opened the fourth gate, the Shaman, Gate of Pain. Unbelievable, said Kushina in awe. Incredible, muttered the Sandaime, as he watched Lee do something that should be impossible for a boy his age. No way, said Sasuke, as he watched Lee power up even further. This is nuts, stated Jiraiya. Naruto, thought Tsunade with worry. What the hell is he doing? Asked Mai in confusion and disbelief in what she was seeing. Amazing, no one can do this by sheer effort alone. The boy is truly gifted, muttered a stunned Kakashi. Naruto, get out of there. You can't beat him, yelled Tsunade in panic, but it was too late. The next thing Naruto knew, Lee disappeared in an explosive burst of speed that torn the arena apart even further, forcing Heir to once again jump up to the catwalks for safety. What frightened speed, thought Heir as he jumped into the catwalk again. Before Naruto knew what had happened, Lee appeared underneath him, and used his Konoha Shofu, Tree Leaf Rising Wind, to shoot Naruto into the air. The force of the kick was so great that it sent a massive shockwave all around the arena, forcing everyone to cover their faces. Holy shit! Cried Kiba, as he tried to shield himself from the shockwave and debris. He's faster than ever, thought Yamato. What phenomenal speed! Thought Kurenai in complete wonder. This is crazy, what the hell is Konoha teaching these guys? Yelled Kankuro, as he was beginning to believe that both Lee and Naruto weren't even human. Naruto-kun! Cried Haku. Where did they go? Asked a confused and shocked Saito. Up there, said Zabuza, who couldn't believe how fast Lee was, as Naruto was shot up into the air above the dust and debris. But where is Lee-san? I can't see him, asked Sakura. With Lee and Naruto down in the arena. Your immense strength is of no use to you now, Naruto-kun, thought Lee as he appeared right in front of Naruto, who couldn't move due to the force of Lee's earlier kick. After appearing in front of Naruto, Lee delivered a powerful punch that sent Naruto flying to the ground, but before Naruto could hit the ground, Lee appeared behind Naruto and kicked him in the back, sending flying up again. This continued for the next minute or two, where Lee would appear from every direction and hit Naruto before he could hit the floor, walls or ceiling, keeping him in midair and unable to defend himself or do anything other than being Lee's punching bag. This is insane. How can Lee be so inhumanly fast? Where did he get all this power? Thought Naruto, as pain shot throughout his entire body from all of Lee's hits. You're the one, Naruto-kun, said Lee as he continued his relentless assault on the young blonde Senju. With the spectators. This is crazy. How can anyone be so fast? Asked Yujito in awe and disbelief. Unbelievable, muttered an equally awed Samui. The guy isn't human, said Karui. Shit, Naruto, thought Omoi. His muscles are tearing themselves apart, thought Kakashi, as he had to uncover his Sharingan just to keep up with Lee's speed and saw the stress that Lee's body was under from moving so fast. He's too fast, thought Sasuke, as like most people he couldn't follow Lee's speed. Even if he could use his Sharingan, he doubted he could even keep up. 4. Naruto-chan, cried Tsunade in fear at seeing what was happening to her son. Damn it, thought an equally concerned Jiraiya. Can that really be Lee? Thought an amazed Neji with his Byakugan on so to follow Lee's speed. But when did he become so? Lee, I never knew, thought Tenten is awe of her teammates' speed and strength. It was at this point that Guy saw Lee preparing to open the 5th gate, the Taman, Gate of Limit. Please let this work, thought Guy, as he closed his eyes and prayed that his student would be alright after this. With Lee and Naruto down in the arena. This is where it ends, Naruto-kun, cried Lee as he appeared over Naruto. The 5th gate, Taman. At this point Tsunade, Jiraiya, Shizune, the Sandaime and many others called out Naruto's name, knowing what would happen next. This is it, thought Lee, but as he prepared to deliver the Ura-Renge, reverse lotus, but before he could, he suddenly became consumed by immense pain coming from his entire body. But after a moment, he overcame the pain and focused on finishing his move, where he then preformed the Ura-Renge, and sent Naruto crashing to the arena floor like a meteor, causing yet another massive crash and destroying the arena even further. This forced everyone to once again cover their faces from the shockwave and dust caused by the crash. End Naruto OST Rock Lee Lotus theme. With the spectators. Shit, that was too fast, I couldn't tell what was even happening, thought Shikamaru as he covered his face. Truly impressive, thought Danzo, who believed Lee may one day become a valuable asset to Konoha. Not bad for a freak, thought Sai, who was just as amazed as everyone by Lee's power and speed. Shit, yelled Kiba again, as he protected his face from the debris. Naruto, cried Tsunade, Shizune and Ino together, while others like Omoi, Haku, Samui, Yujito and Mai thought Naruto. Down in the arena. After the attack, Lee fell to the ground screaming in agony, as pain shot up from his left arm and leg. Once he hit the ground, he rolled across the ground, unable to do anything for the moment. Eventually, Lee slowly got back onto his feet, and looked towards the dust cloud, caused by the crash, hoping to see Naruto. As the dust slowly settled, an even larger crater replaced the one that Naruto had created earlier on. But before the dust could fully settle, Naruto burst out of the dust cloud and headed straight for Lee. With the spectators. Naruto, he's okay, cried Shizune. Thank goodness, thought Tsunade, where she felt like she lost a year of her life from worrying so much. Impossible, thought Guy in shock. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. After Naruto appeared out of the dust, Lee was stunned, as he couldn't understand how Naruto withstood his Ura-Renge. Lee of course tried to avoid him, but found he could not as he was too injured from opening 5 of the 8 gates. The next thing the young disciple of Guy knew what happened, Naruto appeared in front of him, and did a perfect imitation of Guy's and Lee's Konoha Shofu, Rising Leaf Wind, where he kicked Lee right up into the air. After which Naruto propelled himself up after Lee, and once he was above Lee he did a mid-air somersault. I'm sorry Lee, but I'm finishing this fight once and for all, Gekikyaku hammer kick, yelled Naruto. Before he performed a falling axe kick down on Lee's chest and sent the young boy crashing to the floor, just like Lee had done to Naruto moments ago, indicating that Naruto was using his superhuman strength. Like moments ago, a large shockwave erupted from the crash and dust once again filled the air, forcing those watching the fight to cover their faces. With the spectators. Shit, this is getting out of hand, how many times do these two need to destroy the arena? Cried Anko as she covered her face. Let's just hope this finishes it, as I don't think this place can last much longer, replied Ibiki. Lee! Cried Tenten when she saw her teammate hit the ground. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. Like Lee, when Naruto landed on the ground, he tumbled a bit, but slowly regained himself and got onto his knees, although was panting heavily. I didn't want to go this, far Lee but you left me, not choice, said Naruto, as he was about done. His body was wrecked from all his injuries and couldn't move, and even if he could, he didn't have the energy to fight anymore. With the spectators. I don't understand, how did he withstand the Yura Renge? Asked Guy, since after a direct hit from the Yura Renge, Naruto should have been finished. It happened when you closed your eyes to pray, responded Jiraiya. What? When you closed your eyes to pray, the kid paused momentarily from the pain of the stress on his body, said Jiraiya. That's when Naruto replaced himself with a large piece of rubble from the floor, avoiding the attack, and then waited in the dust cloud to strike. You certainly lucked out, Naruto thought Kushina seriously. Had Lee not stopped because of the pain, you would have lost. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. Once the dust had settled, the spectators saw that most of the arena was now one giant crater surrounded by rubble, and with Lee in the center lying on the floor, seemingly unconscious. Soon after, Hayate jumped back down to the arena, where he still couldn't believe that all this was caused by two young genin. What a battle! Thought the sickly-looking examiner as he looked at the state of the arena, after which he turned to the badly beaten Naruto to the unconscious Lee lying on the floor, where he couldn't help but marvel at their strength and skill. Regardless of who won this battle, both those boys are something else. But just when Hayate was about to declare Naruto the winner, he suddenly saw Lee slowly getting back up onto his feet. No way. It's not possible. Thought Naruto in disbelief when he saw Lee standing up. His body was shaking, showing that he could barely stand. He was bleeding from his arms, legs and mouth, covered in bruises and cuts. His clothes were torn up and covered in dirt and dried blood, yet despite everything that he went through, Lee was standing up and falling into a fighting stance. With the spectators. No way! Said Kiba in awe. It can't be. Spoke a stunned Samui. Impossible! Cried Tsunade in surprise. How can he stand up after Naruto's attack, said an equally surprised Shizune. What the hell is this kid made out of, thought Kushina in amazement. How is this possible? Muttered a wide-eyed Yamato. He can't be human, no one should be able to get up after a hit like that, stated Mai in astonishment. Lee thought Tenten and Guy in surprise and concern. He opened 5 of the 8 gates, took 2 direct hits from Naruto when he uses his superhuman strength, smashed through a stone wall and into a stone floor and used the Yura Renge. He shouldn't be able to move, let alone be able to stand up after all that. Thought Kakashi in bewilderment. With Lee and Naruto in the arena. How can he still be standing? I hit Lee with everything I had. Thought Naruto in surprise and confusion. If he attacks, I'm finished. But as soon Naruto thought this, he and Hayate looked at Lee's face, and saw that he was in fact unconscious. He's unconscious? Thought Naruto in disbelief. Even though he lost consciousness, his body refused to give up, the only thing that is keeping him up is sheer willpower, thought Hayate, who could not help but admire Lee's determination. What a guy! Muttered Naruto in awe. This match is over, the winner is Senju, Naruto declared Hayate. As soon as Naruto was declared the winner, the young blonde fell to the ground, as he could no longer keep sitting up. Once he hit the ground, Tsunade and Shizune immediately jumped down to the arena, followed closely by Guy, who went to Lee. As soon as Tsunade reached Naruto, she could see that her son was badly hurt. Naruto, are you alright? Where does it hurt most? Asked Tsunade quickly, as she prepared to heal Naruto. I've been better, Kaa-chan. As for where it hurts most, it hurts everywhere, replied Naruto, with a painful smile, since he hadn't felt this bad since one of his punishment exercises from his mother. You damn idiot, don't you know how worried you had me? I swear you won't be happy until you put me into an earlier grave, said an annoyed and concerned Tsunade. Ha, sorry Kaa-chan, said Naruto with a painful grin. Apologize later, right now I need to heal you, stated Tsunade, where she was about to start healing Naruto, but was stopped by Naruto. No wait Kaa-chan, said Naruto, as he stopped his mother. Go to Lee, he's in worse shape than me and needs you more, Shizune can take care of me. Naruto, you can expect me to, said Tsunade, but was stopped by Naruto. Please Kaa-chan, just do it, I've caused Lee enough pain, I don't want him to suffer any more, pleaded Naruto. At hearing his, Tsunade bit her lip in frustration, since she couldn't refuse Naruto when he begging her like this. It especially annoyed her that Naruto was asking her of this, when he was in this state. But then again, it wasn't uncommon for Naruto to do something like this, since he often showed more concern for others than himself, a trait that he inherited from his father Minato. Eventually though, Tsunade broke and agreed to help Lee, where she gave Shizune a look that told the younger woman to take care of Naruto. Shizune of course nodded, indicating that she would, after which the slug princess went over to help Lee. After a couple of minutes, Naruto was back on his feet. He was of course nowhere near fully healed, but was now well enough to stand and walk around a bit, although had to move slowly with Shizune's help. Once he was back on his feet, Naruto and Shizune slowly made their way over to Lee and the others, where Tsunade had just finished examining Lee, and the medics were gently placing Lee on a stretcher and taking him away. Kaa-chan, how is Lee? Asked Naruto after he walked up to his mother. At this question, a saddened look appeared on Tsunade's face, where she remained silent for a moment before answering. He's breathing, but the bones in his entire body have suffered comminuted fractures, no doubt caused from your attacks. His muscles have also been torn up, due to the stress of opening the 5 gates and moving so fast. But that's nothing that you can't treat, said Naruto, knowing how skilled his mother was in healing. If it was just that, then yes, it would be a light, even though he would be in for a long recovery. The problem is, there are fragments of bone lodged in his spinal column, which most likely happened when you hit him with your last attack. I'm afraid his life as a shinobi is over. No, can't be, said Naruto in denial, but the look on his mother's face told him that it was. This is all my fault, I shouldn't have gone so far, said Naruto with a pained look, as he never wanted this. It just that, he wouldn't give up, no matter how hard I hit him, he just kept getting up. I never wanted to take away his life as a shinobi and his dream. No Naruto-san, this is not your fault, spoke Guy somberly, as took the news as badly as Naruto did, if not worse, and was fighting hard not to cry. The fault lies with me. I was the one who taught Lee how open the inner gates. I just didn't want to imagine that Lee would lose. I wanted to help him achieve his goal so badly that I... At this Guy stopped, as the pain and the sorrow of what happened to Lee was too much for him. Please forgive me, Lee, forgive me for not being able to stop you. Kaa-chan, please, isn't there anything you can do? You're the greatest medic in the world. There has to be something you can do, pleaded Naruto, since couldn't bear knowing that he was responsible to taking Lee Dream away from him. He also didn't believe this was right, after everything Lee went through just to get this far. At this question Tsunade frowned slightly, as if in deep thought, and after a moment or two she finally spoke, with complete seriousness. There is an operation that I and I alone could perform, which could allow him return to duty. But there is only a 50% chance of success, and I'm afraid I won't attempt any operation with less than 51%. But 50% is better than what he has now, Naruto said. You don't understand, Naruto. If this operation fails, then it will most likely prove fatal for him, explained Tsunade, shocking both Guy and Naruto. It may be better if the boy simply retires from shinobi life. Isn't there anything you can do to improve those odds, Kaa-chan? Asked Naruto, since he refused to believe this. Is there anything you can do, Tsunade-sama? Asked Guy desperately, since he would do anything to help Lee no matter the cost to himself. Seeing how desperate her son and Guy were, Tsunade bit her lip in frustration before speaking. There might be a way for me to improve on those odds, but I would have to do some research on it. But I won't even consider attempting it, until the boy has recovered from his other injuries, so we have some time until then. At hearing this, Naruto smiled, since if there was anyone who could help Lee, it was his mother. Thank you, I would be eternally grateful for anything you can do, Tsunade-sama, said the grateful guy, to which Tsunade just nodded. With the spectators. As the spectators watched Lee being taken away by the medics, many could not help but be saddened at how it ended, as most couldn't help but admire how hard Lee fought. He fought to the very end and never gave up, thought Mai, who gained some respect for Lee, and how hard he fought Naruto, and very well nearly defeated him. He was indeed strong. The fight could have gone either way, commented Yujito, where the rest of her team nodded in agreement, as like Mai, they had gained so respect and admiration for the young Konoha genin's skill and determination. Lee said the concerned Ten, as she saw her badly injured teammate being taken away. Is Lee-san going to be okay? Sakura asked Kakashi. I honestly don't know, Sakura replied the copy Nin with a somber tone. Lee, even in the end you simply didn't understand. You can never change your fate, no matter how hard you try or how much you risk. Just as you were fated to be a failure, Senju was fated to win. Fate will never smile on someone who seeks to win by falling on their own sword or demands others to fall on theirs, thought Niji. With Naruto's match now over, the preliminaries were officially finished, but given the state of the arena, the Hokage could not give his explanation on what was to happen next. Hence Hokage and the other examiners led them to the room that Naruto and the others went into, after Tsunade made her entrance. Once everyone had entered the room, the Sandaime went on to explain how the finals were going to happen, and how they would be given a 1-month training period. This would also allow leaders of the other shinobi villages to be informed of the results of the exam up to this point, as well as give the daimyos from other lands time to prepare and come to Konoha so they can watch the finals. Eventually though, the Sandaime got to point where he explained that the final rounds would be a tournament, where the winners of each match would move to the next round. The first matches of the tournament would be decided by draw of a lottery, where their names would be called out. After which they would then place their hand in a box that Anko was now holding, and pull out a medium-sized stone ball with a number drawn on it. Whatever number they draw, they would face the person with the number that came before or after it. For example, if a person got number 1 and another person got number 2, then they would face off against each other in the finals. This was to make sure that the matches were fair and random, as well as give each person a fair chance to prepare for their opponent, now that they all knew each other's skills and abilities. After everything was explained, Anko began to call out the names, where the person that was called would walk up and take a number ball and show it. I've got 12, said Dosu. I have number 14, spoke Omoi. 3, stated Temari. Number 5, Yujito said. 9, Kankuro spoke. I have 15, Haku stated. 11, said Gaara. 13, stated Sasuke. 1, spoke Niji after taking out the stone ball with the number 1. Next, Senju Naruto, said Anko. After hearing his name being called, Naruto slowly walked up to the purple-haired Konochi. He then placed his hand into the box that she was holding, and took out the first stone ball his hand touched. When Naruto took it out and saw the number, he slowly began to chuckle, which soon turned to a dark, mirthless laugh. What is Naruto-kun doing? Thought Haku. What going on with Naruto-kun? Ino asked her friend. I don't know, replied Sakura, who was just as confused as her friend. It must have something to do with the number he has drawn. What number did the brat draw? Thought Sabuza, who was just as curious as everyone else. Hey kid, what number do you have? Asked Anko, who was starting to get impatient with Naruto. Naruto of course did not answer and just kept laughing mirthlessly, but moments later he stopped and turned around and held up his hand, showing everyone his number, or more precisely, he showed Niji his number. Number 2, said Naruto with a cold and evil-looking smirk. Wait. Number 2? Said Ino in surprise. Then that means, said Sakura, realizing what this meant. Naruto and Niji will be facing each other in the first round of the finals. Finished 10-10. Troublesome, muttered Shikamaru. when the Sandaime heard what number Naruto had drawn and realized who Naruto would be facing. He began to wonder if maybe he should change the matches, since he wasn't sure if the Chunin arena could handle a pissed-off Senju. Well, this should be entertaining, thought the demon of the hidden mist, with an amused smirk behind his mask. How better him than me, thought Kiba with a smirk, since if it wasn't for the fact that Niji nearly killed his teammate, the young Inuzuka might actually feel sorry for the Hyuga prodigy. Oh boy, said Asuma, as he could already guess what was to come. This is not going to end well, thought Yamato with a concerned look. Oh, this could be fun to watch, thought Anko with an evil-looking smirk, where she made it a point to get a front row set for the finals, since given what happened between Naruto and Niji earlier on. The first round of the finals were going to very violent and perhaps even bloody. This is going to get messing, muttered Kushina. Ha! That Hyuga punk is in for it now, thought Tsunade with a cold smirk. So, Senju, it seems we were fated to battle after all, thought Niji, as he stared coldly back at Naruto. Damn, I figured the chances were good that the brat and that Hyuga kid would face off in the finals, but I never expected they would face each other, straight off the bat, thought Jiraiya, his surprise, before glancing over at Guy. I hope you've prepared a eulogy for that kid of yours, Guy, as you're going to need it, after the brat is done with him. It seems that your precious fate has betrayed you, and has handed you to me on a silver platter. I suggest that you use your remaining time wisely, Hyuga Niji, and get your affairs in order. Because when we meet 1 month from now, I will crush you, said Naruto as he snarled out the last part and crushed the stone ball in his hand to dust. This action caused some of the genin to take a step back in fear. Damn, Naruto can be pretty scary when he's pissed, commented Omoi, where for once his teammate Karui was in complete agreement with him. Who was seriously having second thoughts on going against Naruto, after seeing what he could do in his match with Lee. That ain't no maybe, replied Killer Bee. Naruto's anger is never meek. Soon enough though, Naruto walked back to his mother and the others, after which Anko called out the remaining names. Shino got number 10. Samui got number 16. Karui got number 8. Chojuro got number 6. Sai got number 7. And finally, Shikamaru got number 4. Once everyone had gotten their numbers, Ibiki then revealed a large board showing who would be facing who, and how they would move up through the tournament. When the genin and other spectators looked at the board, they saw. Round 1 was Senju Naruto versus Hyuga Niji. Round 2 was Temari versus Nara Shikamaru. Round 3 was Ni Yujito versus Chojuro. Round 4 was Sai versus Karui. Round 5 was Kankuro versus Aburame Shino. Round 6 was Sabaku no Gaara versus Dosu. Round 7 was Uchiha Sasuke versus Omoi. Round 8 was Yuki Haku versus Samui. When everyone saw how the matches were being set up, their reactions varied. Troublesome, I have to fight another girl, thought the annoyed Nara, when he saw that he was facing Temari in the finals. Crap, I'm in the same half of the draw as Gaara, maybe I should just forfeit and let that other guy face him, thought Kankuro nervously. I see my opponent is that Kumo guy. He's not one of the people I had hoped for, but he should be interesting, thought Sasuke, since he had been watching Omoi's fight. There was also the added benefit that if he won his fight, he'd have another chance at fighting Haku or go against Samui, both of whom Sasuke wanted to fight. Uchiha Sasuke, Senju Naruto, thought the crazed Jinchuriki of the two people he wanted to fight most in this exam. This is perfect, thought Niji with a small smile. So, I'm the one that gets the first crack at the Uchiha. I have to be careful with him, thought Omoi. I see, so I'm facing that Kunoichi from Kumo, thought Haku, with a slight frown, as she remembered how quickly and easily Samui took Ino down and what Naruto said about her. And should I win my battle, I may have to fight Uchiha Sasuke again. Crap, I going against the Yujito girl, and if what Naruto-san said is true, she's stronger than Haku, thought the worried Chojuro, as he heard what Naruto said about Yujito when she faced Kiba. This could be difficult, thought Yujito. If I want to face Naruto, I will have to win my match against the Kiri genin, and then face either Karui or that Konoha genin she is facing. Naruto will also have to do the same on his end, where if he wins against that Hyuga guy, he'll have to face either the Suna Kanochi or her opponent. But then again this could work to our advantage, where Omoi is facing the Uchiha first and should he fail, Samui can face him right after the fight, should she win her battle. Even if she loses her match against the Kiri Kunoichi, or the Uchiha, I can finish him off in the finals should he win all his matches. I couldn't ask for anything better, thought Naruto with a smirk, since once he'd taken care of Niji he had a possible shot against Temari, who he was still sore at for what she tried to do to Tenten, and after that had a possible rematch with Yujito, and then either Sasuke or Gaara. May I ask you a question? Asked Shikamaru as he raised his hand. You may, the old Kage. If this is going to be a tournament, does that mean there is only going to be one winner and only one of us is going to be a Chunin? Asked Shikamaru. Actually, it is quite the contrary, replied the Sandaime. There will be several judges in the final rounds, including myself, the other Kages that will most likely come, as well as the lords from the various countries, who will be coming to watch you fight in the finals. By watching you in this tournament, they will be able to make a thorough evaluation of your skills and abilities. They will then decide if any or all of you possess the qualities required to be a Chunin. Even if you lose your match, there is still a chance that you could become a Chunin. So that means there's a chance that all of us, who have passed into the finals, could become a Chunin, said Naruto, after getting what his surrogate grandfather was saying. Correct, answered Sarutobi, but there is an equally chance that none of you will be chosen to become Chunin. But that is the advantage of this tournament in fighting multiple battles, since it gives you more chances to show your skills and abilities. This is just about the most troublesome thing ever, thought Shikamaru with an annoyed look. Once the explanations were all done, the Sandaime dismissed everyone and wished all those in the finals luck. After the Sandaime dismissed everyone, Kakashi took hold of Sasuke and Shunshin, body flicker, away, to seal his curse seal. Tsunade was of course about to do the same, but before she could, Naruto saw Yujito and her team walking over to him, where he asked his mother to wait a few minutes, where he walked over to them and meet them halfway. Hey guys, hey B-sensei, greeted Naruto. Yo Naruto, greeted Killer Bee before he held out his fist, gimme me some. Naturally when Naruto saw this he followed in tow, where he bumped fists with Killer Bee, who is technically his fist kenjutsu teacher. Good stuff, man. Especially this, oh, and that, said B as he and Naruto continued to bump fists together. It's good to see you, B-sensei, it's been too long, said Naruto with a smile. I feel ya, Naruto, nice. The look on your face is as cool as ice. So did I live up to your standards? Asked Naruto. Your battle of off the hook, a right-handed smash with a downward crash, replied Killer Bee in his usual rhymes. Indeed, both your battles were very impressive, Naruto-san. You have become a great deal stronger since we last saw you, spoke Samui. Thanks, so have all of you, replied Naruto. I expect to meet you in the third round, Naruto, because I will not forgive you if you lose to someone else, as that pleasure belongs to me, said Yujito, which caused Naruto to smirk. Oh, don't worry, Yujito-chan, I have no intention of losing, especially not to the Hyuga team or the fangirl, replied Naruto before giving both Niji and Temari a cold glance as they walked by them. Plus, I'm looking forward to our little rematch now. Naruto-kun, you were amazing when you were fighting Lee-san. I knew you would win, declared Ino as she pushed herself next to Naruto and latched onto Naruto's right arm, forgetting that the young boy was still quite sensitive from his recent fight, where he flinched slightly in pain. At seeing this scene, a small tick mark appeared next to Yujito, while Samui frowned at seeing her former opponent. Yeah, thanks Ino-chan, replied Naruto with a small smile. Oh, do you know these guys, Naruto-kun? Asked Ino, as she finally took notice of the Kumo team. Yeah, these are Yujito, Omoi, Karui, their sensei Killer Bee, and you of course already know Samui. Upon seeing Samui, Ino narrowed her eyes, since she of course remembered one who defeated her in the preliminaries. It also didn't help that Ino was slightly jealous of Samui's breast size, which were clearly C-cup and still growing. A pleasure, said Yujito with a smile, which was clearly forced. "Yeah, nice to meet you," replied Ino with a frown, as she held Naruto's arm tighter, as was clearly threatened by how familiar the Kumo girls were to her Naruto-kun. "Excuse me, but if you don't mind, could you kindly let go of my future husband?" spoke a familiar female voice. At hearing this, Naruto, Ino and the Kumo team quickly turned to Naruto's left and saw none other than Hattori Mai walking over to them with an annoyed look. "He's not your husband, Naruto-kun is with me," stated Ino defiantly as she glared over at the older girl and held Naruto's arm tighter. "Humph. And pray tell, why exactly would Naruto-kun want to be with a weakling like you, who lost her match?" retorted Mai with a cold smirk when she saw Ino's angry glare. "I would not be the one insulting Ino-san's lost if I were you, Mai-san, since if memory serves, you lost your match as well," commented Haku, as she walked up to the group. "Oh, it's you, Ice Princess, come to try and take Naruto-kun back? Well, I'm afraid you can't have him," replied Mai, as she grabbed hold of Naruto's remaining free arm, and then gave Haku a saucy look. This act of course resulted in Naruto blushing red from embarrassment, as he now had a girl on each arm. Haku and Ino of course did not take this well, where Ino glared angrily at the other girl, while a large tick mark appeared on Haku's head. Not far from Naruto and the girls, Tsunade and the other watched the scene unfold. Naturally, when Jiraiya saw this scene, he immediately started giggling perversely, as ideas started to pop into his head. He, the brat, a chick magnet just like his old man. He already has girls fighting over him. Minato, you would be so proud of him, thought Jiraiya, as he continued to giggle and write, while wiping away an imaginary tear of joy. Although as he did, inwardly Jiraiya was crying in anime tears. Why can't stuff like that happen to me? Kushina and Shizune were also highly amused by the situation, where they couldn't help but smile and plan to tease Naruto about this later on. Tsunade, on the other hand, wasn't amused at all by what was happening. In fact, she had a large frown on her face, and her right eyebrow began to twitch with annoyance. It got even worse when she saw Mai grab Naruto's left arm, since she was still angry at the girl for what she did after her battle with Naruto. "Shouldn't you be with your sensei and preparing to leave the village, since you did not qualify to go to the finals?" said Haku rather calmly. "Yeah, why do you just head back to your village, where you belong?" stated Ino angrily, as she held Naruto's arm tightly. At this Mai just smiled. "Actually no, I've arranged with my sensei to stay here for a while longer and watch the finals, as I wish to see what else my future husband is capable of." Since after seeing Naruto's battle with Lee, my interest in Naruto only grew, and she was eager to see what else the young Senju heir was capable of. Besides, this gives Naruto-kun and I some time to get to know one another better. "He's not your future husband," declared Ino angrily, as she tried to pull Naruto more to her, although Mai held strong. As this was happening, Naruto began to feel like he was in the middle of a tug-of-war, with Mai pulling to his left and Ino pulling to his right. "I agree," replied Haku rather coolly, as she slowly started to lose her patience with Mai. "Oh, and who else would there be?" "Surely not you?" said Mai. "You may be tough, Ice Princess, I'll give you that, and you're not bad looking either. But you don't exactly have much else to offer, since what are you? You? Just above an A-cup?" At this remark, Haku blushed slightly in embarrassment at the mention at her breast size. Despite being insulted, Haku kept her cool and remained calm and maintained a neutral facade, so not to let Mai know that she got to her. But behind that facade, Haku's eyes held murderous intent, where a dark menacing aura surrounded her. When Naruto saw this, he became slightly worried at what would happen. He even could have sworn that he saw a demonic visage hovering over Haku, proving that she was indeed a true student of the Kirigakure no Kijin, demon of the hidden mist. Mai of course ignored Haku's glares and then turned to Ino. "You on the other hand have even less to offer, since you barely even lasted 30 seconds in your match, and quite frankly, I think you're even smaller than the Ice Princess. Hell, I'd be more threatened by Miss Cowtitties over there than you." When Mai said this, Ino went red with anger and glared daggers at the granddaughter of Hanzo, especially at the remark of her bust size. Samui too also took insult at Mai's remark, knowing that she was referring to her. The insult was further annoying to her, since Mai was basically the same size herself. Although I will say this, continued Mai, you're at least more developed than the Patanko over there. 5. What did you say, bitch? Cried Karui angrily. You heard me. Mai replied with a smirk as she looked over at Karui. Oh crap, thought Naruto, knowing things were only going to get worse now, since Karui had serious issues when people talked about her underdeveloped chest. Well, at least I don't dress up like some whore. Karui responded angrily. Well, unlike you, I actually have something to show, flat chest. Retorted Mai with sneer, which further infuriated the young Kunoichi, where flames of rage erupted from her eyes. Why you? Growled Karui angrily and took a step forward but was stopped by Samui. No, Karui, not here. I suggest that you watch your mouth, as I will not stand by and let anyone insult my teammate, said Yujito coldly as she stepped forward, while at the same time, channeled her chakra to her fingernails, causing them to grow and become claw-like. Mai, of course, was not intimidated and just smirked. Looks like someone is overdue a trimming. Once Yujito heard this, the young girl narrowed her eyes angrily, and at the same time she could hear the Nibi telling her to claw Mai's eyes out. This was of course a suggestion that Yujito had no problem in following, since she was already angry enough at girl. From the sidelines, Omoi and Killer Bee watched the whole scene unfold, where the tension between the 6 girls became so thick that one could cut it with a knife. It got so bad that those watching the scene could have sworn they saw lightning coming out of the girls' eyes, where most of them glared at Mai, who just glared back at them. Sensei, don't you think you should step in and stop them? Asked Omoi, as he turned to his sensei. I'm cool, but I ain't no fool, replied B, since he was smart enough to know not to get involved in a cat fight between Kunoichi. At the same time, Naruto could only sigh and wonder how he got himself into this situation, while also thinking, why is it that I suddenly feel like a piece of meat? Fortunately though, before things could get out of hand, all 6 Kunoichi froze, when they suddenly sensed a dark malevolent presence coming from behind Naruto. When they turned, they saw none other than Naruto's mother Tsunade towering over them with an annoyed look on her face, and a pitch-black aura surrounding her. They also noticed a disturbing red fire in her eyes, which gave her near-demonic appearance. Upon seeing Tsunade, Ino and Karui couldn't help but wither under the older woman's stare, as they now understood why Tsunade was so feared. The other girls though held their nerve and did not show any signs of fear, although they were all slightly unnerved by how Tsunade was looking at them. Great, the old hag is here now, muttered Mai, when she saw the slug princess. Tsunade of course picked up on this, but reined in her temper and decided to ignore her for now, since she had more important issues to deal with than Mai. If you girls don't mind, I have some business with My-san, spoke Tsunade in a dangerous tone, which said don't mess with me. Ino of course quickly let go of Naruto's arm, as did Mai, although reluctantly and more slowly, and she frowned with annoyance. Once Mai and Ino had let go of him, Naruto began to laugh nervously, since he could feel his mother staring down at him. Well girls, I'll guess I see you all next month in the finals, so best of luck, Tiga. Naruto said before crying out in pain as his mother grabbed him by the ear and started to drag him away. Ka-chan, what the hell are you doing? Ah. That hurts, cried Naruto. I'm taking you to get that thing sealed up, and then treating your injuries, and once you are healed, you and I are going to have a long talk about what kind of shenanigans you've been up to for the past 6 months, stated Tsunade as she marched away from Yujito and the other girls, while dragging her son away by the ear, who was screaming in pain. Naturally, when the others saw this, most of them had large sweat drops at the back of their heads, although a certain toad hermit snickered in amusement, since it was nice to see Naruto getting into trouble with his mother every now and again. His amusement although was short-lived, where Tsunade used her other hand to grab Jiraiya's ear and started to pull on it. Arg! What the hell, Heim? Cried Jiraiya as Tsunade started to pull him by the ear. Because one way or the other, I know you had some hand in all this, and you're going to answer for it, rounded Tsunade, as she dragged Jiraiya and Naruto painfully away by their ears. Ah. Ka-chan, wait, it's not what you think, I swear, they're just friends. Yelled Naruto. Ouch. Please, Heim, I'm innocent. Said Jiraiya, Ow, Kaa-chan, stop it. You're gonna pull my ear off. Arg. Come on, Haim, I didn't do anything, I swear. Sadly though, Tsunade was ignoring their pleas and continued to drag the two out of the room by their ears. Following behind them were Yamato, Kushina and Shizune, who were all highly amused by the scene. Shizune was of course the most amused by it, since their family was together again, and it was already like old times. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.